Though we are a New York sports station, I know that there is a smattering of New England Patriots fans in our area, and that group has been up in arms this season with the results of their team so far. Here to help us make a little bit of sense of what's going on out in Foxborough, we welcome in a good friend of the drive with Charlie and Dan from WBUR, as well as the Believe Network. He hosts a podcast on the Ravens, but he still covers the Patriots and knows a lot about them and can try to give us some answers for all the questions floating around Patriots Nation. He is Khari Thompson. Mr. Thompson, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Doing better than the Patriots, my friend.
Oh, boy. Well, low bar, but I'm glad to hear it. I mean, there are a million and one questions that can be asked about this group, but, I mean, let's just go straight play on the field. Have you ever seen this many things go wrong with a Patriots group all at once through the first 10 weeks or so of a season?
I would say no, and it's funny because I had to think, was it this ugly last year? It really was this ugly last year at points, but the defense was bailing them out enough for them to stay reasonably in contention. They also had a pretty bad middle portion of the schedule that they were able to kind of feast on a little bit. And, you even think about the fact that Mac Jones was hurt for some of that. And you got a little mini winning streak with Bailey Zappi at quarterback. And then when Mac Jones comes back, obviously they had the debacle against the Chicago Bears, but then they went on and beat the New York Jets right after that.
Right.
So there was a little bit of optimism there. And for a little bit, it looked like they were on track to potentially make the playoffs. And then obviously they gave it away and it didn't work out like that. But I think that this year it's a complete, and the thing is, it's been building towards this, an unraveling of the offense and showing how badly it's failed Mac Jones and how little he can improve the margin for error just given what his skill set is.
Right.
The fact that the running game cannot support him, particularly with how many injuries there have been to the offensive line and how much shuffling that there has been, and the defense that is all right. Certainly not as good as it's been, but not as bad as it was in, say, 2020. And what you have then is a failure of complementary football, which is what Bill Belichick has always prided himself on having as a coach and as a general manager. And the wild thing is that it is all because of decisions Bill Belichick has made. So he has failed himself and the New England Patriots.
Wow, that's quite kind of the catch-22 there for Bill. But you bring up so many great points. The defense, you could point to a couple pretty catastrophic injuries in addition to some bad decisions for why maybe they've taken that step backwards. But on the offensive side, Mac Jones, you hit on two very interesting points with him. One, the skill set itself, but then two, the pieces around him that aren't helping him to succeed. So when Mac is getting as much criticism as he is all of it warranted? Where do you see this situation going with Mac as like you said, it continues to unravel?
The criticism is warranted.
Okay.
It has to be warranted. He's a third-year player. He has been prided on his decision-making, his accuracy, and the accuracy and I think decision-making showed up, I think, earlier in the season, but he has deteriorated kind of rapidly since then. And look, let's be honest here. Let's call it what it is. And I was a vocal defender of Mac Jones last year, given the fact that he had Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator, and at times I think that he actually covered up some of the just juvenile offense that was being called out there. But this year you've got Bill O'Brien, and you don't have a great offensive skill position, fill out there, especially at wide receiver. I mean, your best receiver is Demario Douglas, a sixth-round pick, and that's not to hate on Demario Douglas. He's a good player, but he should not be your best receiver. And Kendrick Bourne, before he got hurt, was your best. Kendrick Bourne's a good player. He should not be your best receiver.
Right.
And so all of that, again, goes back to Bill Belichick, and that's not on Mac Jones. But Mac Jones does have control over the kinds of plays that he attempts to make. And some of the stuff that he's been doing is egregious. Mac Jones cannot drift, to one side of the field in the pocket and then try to throw back across the other side of the field.
Right.
You are not Matt Stafford. You're not Josh Allen. You don't have that kind of arm. You cannot try and two-hand shovel a ball as you're going down and hope that it's going to work out. You cannot not step into a throw on the goal line and just kind of Uncle Rico it towards a wide open Mike Gesicki and think it's going to go well. Okay? You can't afford to take the kinds of chances that other quarterbacks can take because you don't have that kind of arm. You don't have that kind of athleticism. And I think that's on Mac Jones, is not knowing the difference between him, not basically knowing and sticking to the fact that he is Mac Jones.
Hey, Khari, so with what seems like a Mac Jones demotion after a very bizarre QB change at the end of the last game to Bailey Zappi, where do you think the Patriots go at the QB position? Are they going to go with Bailey Zappi, and how much rope are they actually going to give him? Or are they going to go with a Malik Cunningham or a Will Grier off the practice squad?
I think the most likely thing that happens is still that Mac Jones starts the next game. And I know that sounds crazy.
Man.
But yes, I know. But the reason is Bailey Zappi is even worse.
Yeah.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not gaining anything from putting Bailey Zappi on the field. And I'm not just talking about we're going to fake spike it and throw it into quadruple coverage, which somehow ended up being the most baffling interception of the game beyond whatever it was that Mac Jones did in the red zone. But Bailey Zappi, when they put him on the field, he's borderline unplayable. He was unplayable in the preseason. He doesn't look good when you put him out on the field in relief of Mac Jones here. The best thing you can say about him is that it looks like he just rears back and throws it with everything he's got in that Bailey Zappi arm of his. And that's just not enough. I think that they are probably not yet at the point where they feel like they can just say, sorry, Mac, you're not playing anymore, because they just don't have anything worth playing behind him. That said, if we get to a point where they are 3-10 or 2-11 or whatever happens, they are going to play the Giants here soon, so they're probably going to win at least one game coming up, because the Giants are a problem unto themselves. But I think that if you get to that point, you got 4 games left in the season, and Mac Jones isn't it, and he's beaten down mentally and physically, and you just don't feel like he can function, then I guess I would probably rock with a Will Grier or a Malik Cunningham before I would play Bailey Zappi. I would find some reason to IR Mac Jones or what have you, because I think that there's likely going to become a point, and it happened at the end of last year, where Mac Jones is just so mentally defeated by what is happening, whether it's his fault or not, that it's not going to be profitable to play him.
Yeah, I can completely understand that perspective, and it certainly seems like it's headed that way. The voice you're hearing is that of Khari Thompson, good friend of the Drive. You can find his work at WBUR, and I also got to make sure I hit the other credits. You have to download the Believe in Ravens podcast to get his coverage there, and you can also now read him on the Windy City Gridiron. We've talked about this before. I know your fandom of the Bears. I got to ask you about Tyson Bagent and Justin Fields and Matt Eberflus and everything that's going on with Chicago. What do you see with that group? Right, it seems like you can't escape clown shows right now in your football life.
I can't escape. It's not even just that. It was when the very first year I covered NFL football in 2016. It was the Brian Hoyer saga when Jay Cutler got hurt. Everybody was like, Brian Hoyer has some 300-yard passing games. We should have him be the starter. And I'm like, it's Brian Hoyer, right? And then Matt Barkley comes in later. Maybe we got something in this Matt Barkley. Everybody wants to believe that the third-string quarterback is going to come in and give you this magical spark, and be this underdog story. There's a reason they're the underdog story. It's because they're not that good, okay? And not everybody's going to be Kurt Warner or Tom Brady or Tony Romo or whatever obscure guy that they want to bring up that's like, look at this guy. He was undrafted or he was a 6th-round pick. There's a reason that, never happens, where you go on and have, a 15-year career and you're a Pro Bowler all the time, because most of the time it's not going to work out. Tyson Bagent, he does not have the passing chart. He does not run an offense like an NFL quarterback. I mean, it's just I feel like I can't say it any better than that. He gets the ball out quickly. Good for him. He runs around and does what he can in terms of making plays. Good for him. But he can't throw the ball in the tight windows. He can't throw the ball efficiently past about 5 yards. Every time he does, it gets picked off or batted in the air or goes off the field. And look, Justin Fields is at a point right now where if the Bears end up with a top 2 pick via the Carolina Panthers, which it certainly looks like they're going to,
right,
I find it hard to think that they are not going to draft a quarterback and try to trade Justin Fields. And that's an interesting – it's kind of a tough thing to think because he has 7 games after coming back from this injury to show that he can do better than that. But the reality is that the NFL's not patient like that anymore. Okay? You don't have all that time to wait for a quarterback because you have to figure out if you got to pay the guy.
Right.
So if you're keeping Justin Fields after this year, you have to think that either you are picking up his 5th-year option or you're ready to pay him, $30-40 million a year. Ooh. Right now, the Bears cannot possibly think that they are there with him. You might as well just try and do it again. But that situation is just such a cluster because I think it's even less on Justin Fields in a way at times than it is with Mac Jones.
Right.
Because you clearly have an offense that is not geared toward Justin Fields' strengths. He's a downfield thrower of the football. He can play in the pocket that way. He's not a quick game god, but Russell Wilson didn't have to be a quick game god. Carson Palmer didn't have to be one either because they had offenses that were like, you throw the ball downfield really well. Let's have you do that. And instead, Luke Getsy and the Chicago Bears offensive coaching staff is trying to turn him into Aaron Rodgers. He's not Aaron Rodgers. That's not how this works. So I feel like what we have here, and I've really been interested in the parallels between Mac Jones and Justin Fields for a while. They're very vastly different players, but they clearly have been let down by the coaching, and at least last year with Fields, the personnel around him. It's better this year, but it hasn't always been healthy. And it's just tough playing quarterback in the league as a young guy, man, because if the moment a team thinks that you're not up to snuff, if there's a better option to get by without you, they're going to do it.
Now, let's talk coaching here while you bring up the topic, because the only thing that seems to be more popular than Mac Jones in terms of topics for the Patriots is Bill Belichick. And in the matter of a couple of years, he's gone from the genius that orchestrated the Patriots dynasty to a guy that's already mentally out the door among Patriots fans, and now apparently a target for other franchises around the NFL. So two-parter is, where do you see things going with Bill for the rest of the season and beyond in New England? And do you think it's legitimate that he could actually, at over 70 years old, possibly land somewhere else after all this?
This is such a tough question, man, because
yeah,
in my mind, there's been this idea, and Bill Belichick was like, hey, they just extended me to a new contract. They're not getting rid of me that easily. Like, you're not just going to fire me unless you're going to pay me. And you got to think about the price tag that Bill Belichick is commanding has got to be over $20 million. So, like, a year. So that's probably not financially feasible.
Right.
So if they were going to let him go, it's probably going to have to be a scenario where you're getting draft compensation for Bill Belichick. And I'm thinking to myself, who's going to want to trade? Realistically, who wants to trade for Bill Belichick just to coach? And, I mean, you're seeing how that's working out for the Denver Broncos. I wouldn't trade for Sean Payton again, and I don't think they should have done it in the first place themselves.
Right.
And again, Bill Belichick is in the twilight of his career, and you're thinking of a guy who has been a coach and GM and personnel manager basically for the last 20-plus years, and that there's a good chance he's going to want to do that again, or at the worst, he's going to want to have extreme control as a coach over personnel decisions. What makes you think you should give Bill Belichick control over personnel decisions based on what you've seen since Tom Brady left? And honestly, even that last year with Tom Brady, why would you do that? So there is a chance to me that whether it's Bill Belichick deciding, okay, mutually we're going to part ways here, we're going to find a way out of this contract,
right,
or Robert Kraft saying, look, if you want to trade for my guy, trade for him. I do think that if this season continues the way that it's been, I just don't know that I see Bill Belichick coming back, because it's been a couple of years of this now. It's a pattern, and it's gotten worse. That said, I just feel like you can talk about, oh, yeah, maybe there's a market for Bill Belichick, for the Commanders, or I've heard the Chicago Bears is an option. Get out of here. I don't want to hear that at all. But that's a desperation move. Yeah. I feel like nobody logically should be trying to do that. Then again, I think NFL teams, NFL franchises have shown repeatedly that they are not always as logical as they should be. So if Bill Belichick hits the market and he wants to stay in the game, someone will give him a chance.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Somebody's going to see championships and put on the blinders for anything else in terms of logic or reason and go after the guy that has a bunch of wins. There's no way. And
they're not going to win, and They will not win said title.
Right, and everybody else, all the other 30 teams in the NFL will point and laugh and go, how could you have possibly done it? But then somebody's going to turn around and do it again because that's just the way that it goes. But, Khari, you've been so very generous with your time. Thank you, as always, for joining us here on The Drive. And hopefully between the Bears and the Patriots, there is some kind of light at the end of the tunnel for you to cover. But if nothing else, you have the Ravens to keep you busy.
Oh, yes. Though I would love it if they stayed engaged and didn't take their foot off the gas against teams they should be beating. Let's just not have that. But, hey, love my guy Keaton Mitchell. Let's see more of that tonight against the Bengals. And,
yes, sir.
You know what? Justin Fields, give me something to hope for.
There you go. That's all we can ask for. He's Khari Thompson again of WBUR, as well as the Believe in Ravens podcast and the Windy City Gridiron. Follow him on Twitter. I forgot this before. You got to make sure you follow him on Twitter at KDThompson5. Khari, thank you so much for joining us again on The Drive, and we'll catch up with you again real soon.
You know it. Thanks.